And this is actually Joanna who's listening.
Yeah, contact me, okay, if you want to view.
So if you are interested in any of these homes, feel free to look for them on 99.co. We also have best-in-class tools which you might not have access to because these are for our experts, right? Such as Joanna. So why is it not released for the public to use? That's because you guys maybe don't know how to use it, or you might use it wrongly, and you might feed yourself the wrong information, thinking that you use this tool and that should be correct. So which is why we also make the call that, hey, only experts or industry experts should be able to have access to these tools, yeah. And also there's some PDPA information, because over here you actually can access information of like your friends,
Yeah,
people,
that's
where they stay. You can find out how much their house is worth and the transaction data and all that, right? So as mentioned, we do have the Property X Value tool and Analyzer, which is a very sophisticated data presentation tool. So if you are interested to know more about your property or what your next steps are, feel free to approach any of our 99 experts, such as Joanna, who will be able to present to you what is next for you in your property journey with like a whole set of like presentation. This is how much you're earning, your income. If you sell your flat now, how much proceeds you have to like upgrade to the next one, whether you can even like maybe buy 2 properties and things like that, correct?
Oh yes. Yeah, we usually what I actually do is we usually break it down into bite-sized pieces so that it's easier for consumers to actually understand the report as well. Yeah, so we clarify and make it clearer for all of you. Yeah.
So one thing about the Property X Value tool that I should highlight is that we are the only platform that offers rental X Value. So for example, if you are on the fence, you want to sell or you want to rent out the property and move to another property, you can also look at the estimated rental value, so you know what best to do next. So we also have a free seller concierge. So if you are a potential seller, means you don't know when to sell your house, how to sell your house, you need help basically, and maybe you don't have an agent to help you, or you don't know which agent you should rely on, because there are a lot of property agents out there. So it's very important to find the right agent, which is where we come in to help you. Okay, so over here, if you just scan the QR code, you can make a free consultation appointment with, you can just ask any questions. There's no obligation, right? So over here, we are just truly, genuinely wanting to help you to see where you are in your property journey and what you can do next. Okay. Okay, somebody raised their hand. Okay. Maybe we can address that in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to put your questions or anything that you want to say. Maybe you cannot hear us or something is technically wrong. Just let us know in the chat. Okay, so the agenda for today, right? We're going to go through the overview of the HDB resale process, and then we'll analyze, the right time to buy or sell. This one also, today I just learned from Joanna. Whether you should buy first or sell first, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Unexpected setbacks. Every seller should consider, should you do it yourself or should you approach an agent to help you sell your home? Okay, and then understanding the HDB resale market and useful tools for buyer and seller. So these are not, it's not going to flow like that, but yeah, let's go through everything, okay? So what are the factors that affect housing prices? We all know that housing prices these days have gone through the roof, right? So why? What can possibly affect housing prices to go up so much? So Joanna, what's your take on that?
Okay, housing price, right? There are actually quite a number of factors that we actually look into whenever we meet our sellers. So some of these factors are like the condition of the unit, whether it's very renovated, whether it's original condition, because that will also make some deciding factors on whether the buyer can afford to re-renovate the whole unit. The number of years on lease. Some people are concerned about the lease decay, and HDB will also take this into consideration when they evaluate the valuation of the house. Okay, on top of that, location, that is very important. Yeah, when you're closer to central, you definitely get a higher value. There's more demand in that area. Okay, proximity to MRT, bus stops, schools, and amenities, right? We have seen a trend in all this convenience. So because a lot of consumers nowadays, they just want to be fast, they want accessibility. So all this actually makes a lot of difference. When you're closer to an MRT, it does give your house a higher value as compared to maybe 2 to 3 blocks away. Yeah, because that 2 to 3 blocks can take at least maybe a 10 minutes walk to the MRT station.
So what's the difference you feel in the prices? Like, compared to like a block that's right next to the MRT station and a block that's like maybe 1 or 2 blocks away from the MRT station. Usually what kind of differences do we see? Like, is it a stark difference, you would say?
It can vary.
Okay.
Yeah, but what the trend that I've noticed, right, is close to 50 to about 100K difference. At least a 50 to 100K. Yeah, and those that are nearer to MRTs, they get snapped up very fast. So you can list it today and maybe in one viewing, it's taken already.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so another deciding factor would be the level of your unit. Unfortunately, there's a bit of biasness here, but somehow people tend to prefer a higher floor unit. Yeah, so we've seen a trend where people will ask, oh, is this like maybe 6 to 7 floor and above or 10 floor and above, depending on what the highest level of the block is. Yeah, but a lot of people tend to prefer higher floor because they're afraid of noise or rubbish chute. Yeah, correct, all these things. But in all fairness, we still manage to sell low floor units.
Yeah, actually, I've also been starting to see the trend of lower floor units also transacting at record prices. Yeah, so I think that a lot of people, last time I think it's a generational thing. I have no idea, but like people last time tend to think that higher floors better because you have view,
higher, yeah,
you have the wind, and stuff like that. Maybe away from like you're elevated, right? So you're away from the hustle and bustle of the street level. But I think now lower floors people actually appreciate that they get home faster.
Oh yes, correct.
Everyone's about like
it's true.
speed and efficiency, right?
Yes. So sometimes the lift takes a bit long to arrive, so they rather just walk up or down the stairs. And lift breakdowns nowadays are very common. So the higher you are, then you either wait until the lift is fixed or you work out. You do a very thorough workout.
Yeah, so there's definitely some demand also for lower floor units now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Then the next one, of course, size. Size, right? It also depends on the layout of this unit. So a lot of people want functionality. Yeah, so if the layout, the size is usable, is spacious, it's easy for them to configure. These units also gets a higher demand. It gets snapped up very quickly. Yeah. So of course, even some are odd shape, right? People still tend to look at how spacious that unit is, and then they'll engage an ID to actually just mask up or convert it into a creative space.
Nowadays, there's a lot you can do with interior design, right? Can really like make it look very different from how it used to be.
So you actually can't tell the difference also. Okay, and then yes, nearby transactions.
Okay, so is your BTO going to MOP soon? So this is the property value. So if you want to find out if you're sitting on a BTO that is going to MOP soon, right? You can actually calculate your property value also because you don't really, we're just talking about recent nearby transactions, right? Because for those new BTO estates, you don't actually have a lot of resale transactions yet because every unit is quite new, right? In all the blocks surrounding the estates, right? So which is why we actually come up with a tool for you to calculate your BTO property value. So if you are wondering what your BTO property is worth, feel free to scan the QR code and find out what your house may possibly be worth. Because I think a lot of people are also looking to sell upon MOP.
Oh yes.
And I think that is because when you BTO for your flat that time, you don't really get to choose your desired flat, right?
Correct.
All these a lot of young families, they just want to get a house soon. And the demand was really crazy, right? Like you feel like,
the moment you get a number, you just anyhow just pick already.
Just take a house.
Yeah,
so you cannot really choose to live in your desired like town.
Location.
Correct. Your location, the size of your flat even.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why a lot of people are looking to sell their flat upon MOP. So so when you find out your home value, this is how it looks like, right? This is the property value tool. So all you need to do is key in the property type, your unit number, and we actually generate the floor size for you. Yeah, so you can just calculate your property value by clicking on the button here.
Okay, I think we
Okay.
have
Okay, so maybe before we start on the overview of the HDB resale process, we can also look at what people are asking us. Let's just take a few minutes to go through this. Okay.
Can you say again?
Okay. Okay. So
Oh,
people are
okay.
asking, okay, maybe we can address this at the end of the
Mm.
webinar so as not to hold everybody up. But okay, I acknowledge your questions, right? So somebody is already asking, can you cover the topic of selling HDB, resale HDB to BTO? So he wants to sell his HDB and he's moving to a BTO. Yeah. And is it advisable to sell higher than your valuation value? I think we'll get into that later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's cover, because I think some of your questions might be covered in our
Yes,
topics. So at the
definitely.
end, if it's not addressed, we will address it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the overview of the HDB resale process first. Okay, maybe some of you might not know this because we sell a house like every 10 years
Yeah.
or more, right? So
always
you might
changing.
not be familiar. So what you need to do is, if you are a buyer or you have a buyer on hand, just make sure that they have their HDB flat eligibility letter, which is known as the HFE, right? So it shows the eligibility of the buyer to buy the flat, the loan amount, the grant amount, and also any resale levies, especially for second timers. Yeah, so just make sure that they have the HFE on hand. I'm not going to go so much into it, but so this is the entire overview. So maybe Joanna, you can take us through the steps.
Okay, it's a bit lengthy, but just follow the screen as I do a brief timeline of this.
Yeah.
So of course, if you are a seller, you need to log in to register your intent to sell. Because without this intent to sell, you will not be able to issue any OTPs until after 7 days of registering this intent to sell. Right, and for buyers, you need your HFE just to make sure also that you have the right loan amount in order to purchase whatever you're looking at. Because sometimes when you do your own estimation, right, it might not be as accurate. Okay, so once you have your intent to sell and your HFE, you can then both proceed to market your property for a seller, and buyer, you can start to look through 99.co's portal to look for suitable units according to your price range. Okay, once you have found this, right, usually for sellers, it takes about 2 to 3 months to find the right buyer. Again, depending on all the factors that we mentioned, it could be a one view, one close, or it could take some time to find the right buyer with the right offer. Right. So after you have agreed upon
The price, right?
Yeah. Price, this is where everything comes into place. The seller will have to grant the OTP. Okay, this option to purchase is valid for 21 days. Okay, the buyer needs to exercise this within 21 days. If not, the OTP will expire and it will no longer be valid. Okay, so once the buyer has received this OTP, okay, the buyer needs to log into the HDB portal the next day to request for a valuation. Okay, and when you submit the valuation to HDB, they will get back to you with a HDB valuation within 10 days. Yeah. So HDB will actually send you a notification, an SMS usually, to tell you that the valuation report is now ready for you to access in the portal. Yeah. Okay, and if buyer is happy with the transacted pricing, the buyer can then proceed to exercise this OTP. Okay, so after the OTP, you have exercised, right? Okay, both seller and buyer, you have to agree on when you want to do this resale submission. Because once one party has done the submission, the other party has only 7 days to do this.
Okay.
Yeah,
So they have to do it quite concurrently.
correct, yeah.
So to make sure that your buyer is also cooperative, right?
Yeah, correct,
Yeah.
correct. So usually what I do is I will log in and check through everything. And then
Okay.
I'll check with the other party. Okay, are y'all ready? Ready, then both of us submit at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, this is if there's a lapse, you will have to resubmit again, and there's a payment for doing a resale
Recertificate.
submission. Yeah, correct. So you want to save some money also lah.
Mm.
Okay, then what happens after you receive, once you submit this resale application, right? HDB will get back within 1 to 2 months, depending on the number of applications they receive. Okay, they will process your submission and they will get back to both sellers and buyers with a letter of acceptance. Yeah, so the letter will say, we have received your submission for the transacted property at this amount, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then they will advise the seller on when HDB will send an officer to do an inspection of the house. Okay, and they will also mention the HDB completion date. Yeah. So once you have this, at least you can block out the date and be prepared to go for the HDB completion. Okay, so from then till the HDB completion, right? Okay, you can see here number 7, 6 and 7, right? Okay, the step 6 and 7. Okay, HDB will get back about 2 weeks after you receive your acceptance letter. They will ask you to log in to check through the financial calculations, all the details of the transactions that you have submitted in the resale application. You need to look carefully to ensure that all the figures, the details are all correct. After you go through it and you say, okay, yeah, there's no discrepancy, there's nothing miscalculated, you just click the endorsement. Yes, I have read through and endorsed this application. Okay, once both parties have submitted and endorsed the documents, HDB will then come back with a final approval letter. Yeah, once you have the final approval letter, it means that you just wait until completion date. They will also advise you on what are the necessary documents or things that you need to do before the completion date. So yeah, do look into your HDB portal and ensure all these gets done.
Yeah, we also run through the portal steps with you. Actually, very straightforward, right? I think HDB did quite a good job.
It sounds straightforward, but we do have unexpected scenarios to share as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, before we go through the steps again, let's look at the HDB resale market, right? To understand the market that you're in, you know, how much you should expect to sell HDB for, what is actually the market doing, how is it actually doing. So if you can see the graph, right, you can tell that from 2020 to 2025 at least, the surge is high, right? So the past 15 years, you know, HDB resale volumes, you know, you can see that there's a huge jump of about 65% in total. This is HDB resale volumes over the past 15 years, right? So a lot of people have definitely transacted. And sometimes there is a pattern, right? The more transaction volumes there are, it kind of also means that the higher the prices, right? Because there are more transactions. So we're like, oh, my neighbor sold the house for 1 million. Oh, maybe I can sell for 1.1.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody is just trying to
outbid each other.
Correct. Yes, that's the word. They're trying to outbid each other.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if we look at, you know, just in last month, in April, right? So the resale price have gone up about 0.7% from the previous month. And year on year, it's actually gone up 9.3%. That is considered quite significant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I would say, considering actually between last year and this year, prices considered stabilizing already.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, yes. So resale volume has also increased by 20.8% from March to April. Yeah. I think right post CNY, a lot of people moving on.
Oh yes, yeah. They, you know, all the festivity, Hari Raya is over,
already.
Chinese New Year, yeah. Election also over. So everyone is starting to look into the market.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, but really, if I don't know whether I can talk about this,
yes, sure.
but we are also starting to see more units coming to MOP. End of this year or early next year. So if you are a resale seller, right, and thinking to sell at a high price or a good price, don't wait anymore. Yeah, a lot of us tend to wait and see. Yeah, but when there's a higher supply of newer units in the market, right, then it means that the buyers have more choices. Yeah, so when you delay, you might end up regretting or just earning slightly lesser than what you can earn now.
Yeah, we'll go into details again because definitely when you want to sell high, it kind of also means you're buying high. So it depends, right? If you're comfortable in your flat, you also want to make sure that you're comfortable in your next flat and not just selling it first, you know, for the sake of a high profit, which is actually a mistake that quite a number of
lot
people make.
sellers do, yeah.
Yeah. So you really have to engage the right property expert or consultant to help you navigate this. I mean, I've met many property consultants, such as Joanna, you know, who's like, no, I don't think you should sell a house.
Yeah, honest, very honest agent here.
You shouldn't sell a house because let's look at the market first, right? What's out there, you know, and then you can decide if you want to stay in your current house or you should move.
Correct. Yeah, because sometimes you might earn a lot of cash proceeds, but after you do all the calculations, right, you might not even have enough for your next purchase. So is it really worth selling at this time? Yeah.
So right, if you look at like the HDB median resale prices, right? So it kind of covers all the towns in Singapore. So you can see that what are the median, if you are, for example, if you are living in Ang Mo Kio, right, the first row, and you're living in a 4-room, the median price is 782 lah. Yeah.
Very good.
So how do you find out what is your home worth? Use the property X value tool, you know, but you can kind of compare that to the median price. So you can see, is it like, am I lower than the median price or am I higher than the median price? Then you kind of know how much you can sell for and whether you should sell it now or not. Yeah. So, you know, feel free to screen grab this, you know, if you need, you know. We'll not be sending you the slides if anyone is asking. Yeah, because things get outdated. So we don't want people to keep things that, you know, like information that's outdated lah. Yeah, in future, right? So please do screenshot this first if you need to know all the median. You know, we actually post our flash report every month. So do follow us also on Telegram, you know, or if you are email subscriber, we'll also send the flash report. So yeah, then you'll be like up to date with all the current affairs of property. Okay, so let's get started on the HDB resale process. First and foremost, what you need to do is log into the HDB My Flat portal. So when you log inside, you will know. Okay, what are you? Okay, so over here, please select, right? They actually, if you drop down, they actually ask you, what are you like? Are you a seller? Are you a buyer? Are you a essential occupier even, right? Means you don't own the flat. Yeah, but you can still check about the property that you're living in. Okay, so yeah, so you just log in with SingPass. It's very straightforward. Okay, so over here, this is the step 1 for sellers. Okay, so you just follow the steps. It's not that difficult. It's just that there might be your own personal circumstances that make things complicated, but the entire process is actually laid out quite nicely. All you need to do first is register your intent to sell. Okay, so what are some things to note when you are registering for your intent to sell, right? So obviously, if you are a buyer, you know, only if you are buying with another owner, only one person needs to log in to apply for the HFE, and then you just have to fill in the details of all the buyers during registration. And if you are a seller, if the property is owned by multiple owners, the same thing, only one person needs to log in to register the intent to sell. Okay, you don't need like both owners or more or 3 owners to log in to register the intent to sell. Okay, so during the registration, you need to manually fill in the details of all the sellers. Very similar to the buyer side, but one more thing, you will need to share with HDB your plan for your next property. You know, actually, as a pretty young property owner myself, I'm just like, oh, actually, I didn't know that I have to share with HDB my plan for my next property. You know, do you intend to buy another HDB, intend to buy a property, a private property, or move into a relative place? Very interesting.
Correct. But okay, I believe there will be questions on this, so I'll answer this now. Some of you will ask, but what if I still don't know what I want to buy when I apply for this, right? Okay, it doesn't matter. So let's say now you select intend to buy another property. Okay, but at the end of all the calculations and after, you know, consulting an agent or something, you decide, hey, maybe I'll buy a private property. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so the next property, right? Even if you put intend to buy another HDB, but you change your mind, HDB will not fault you for selecting another option. Yeah, so this is just probably for them to collect data.
Yeah,
on what sellers are doing, you know, after they sell the HDB.
That's true. Okay, so back to the guide, right? So just now we covered step 1, the registering your intent to sell. And then step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and step 6 are actually laid out there as well if you were to log in and check lah. So step 2, you submit your resale application. So this was what Joanna was covering during the entire process. Okay, step 3, endorse the resale documents. So actually, you just have to finish the step 1, then you go step 2. You finish that one first, right?
Yeah.
And then you will just be led to step 3 every
Correct.
time you log into your portal.
Yeah. They will kind of prompt you.
So pretty like quite a good flow lah. HDB has laid out for everybody. So what is OTP? So as you can see in step 2, right, you can submit a resale application once the OTP has been exercised by the buyer. So let's go into OTP, right? It's called the option to purchase. It's a standard contract for all HDB resale transactions, and there's a unique serial code for each contract. So beware of scammers out there, right? You can check serial code.
Correct.
All kinds. Do not rent a place from Facebook Marketplace. I'm just gonna throw this in randomly.
I agree.
There
Yeah.
are so many scammers on Facebook Marketplace.
It's true. So actually sometimes, right, you want to save a bit of money on agent's fees, but it's like buying an insurance.
Yes.
Yeah, you get a, appointed agent and to ensure that everything goes smoothly.
And a peace of mind for sure.
Yeah, correct.
So, okay. So, the option fee that you have to pay, it ranges from $1 to 1,000.
Yeah.
Joanna, do you actually know why?
Oh, okay. Because I believe, right, why it ranges from $1, right? It's also because sometimes it's a family member buying over from their parents or buying over from another family member. So they just want to go through that whole process and they give a, like, just a significant amount to continue with this OTP, this whole transaction. Yeah.
I see. So that's why it's a range. It's up to the seller.
They have to negotiate and talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's say if
Right.
it's not a family member kind of transaction, right? Sometimes it's also because maybe the buyer has some cash flow problems. They might have sufficient loan and CPF and grants, to buy this HDB. But in terms of cash, they are maybe trying to save as much as they can for renovation. Yeah, so in terms of this, buyers also can negotiate with seller. Oh, can I give you a lower option fee?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it really impact the sellers, right? My honest opinion is it doesn't really affect the sellers because if it's your cash proceeds, whether you get it during the option period or when you get it at the completion date, it's still your cash.
It's part of the cash proceeds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. So it's all in.
So market practice is usually 1,000 lah, because
Yeah,
I guess most of the transactions that happen are not between relatives or friends.
Correct. And it's to be fair to the seller because they are holding that property for you to exercise. Yeah.
So then you have to so the deposit lah, it's the option fee plus the option exercise fee. All this, as mentioned, to be negotiated with the seller. So there's a maximum of 5K in total that would be paid straight to the seller lah. Yeah, and not through an agent. So if an agent is asking you for money,
Please don't.
Yeah. You don't have to transfer anything to the agent at this point. Okay. So once you receive the OTP, then you have about 21 days to exercise it lah. Yeah, as mentioned. So if you are interested to know how the HDB OTP looks like, feel free to scan the QR code on the screen so you know how an actual OTP look like. Okay, so you want to determine the value of the HDB flat, right? Yeah, so for this it will be the buyer. The buyer will request, the buyer will request for the value to be done, and then they have to pay about $120 to get the valuation from HDB. Yeah, so the valuer will come and inspect your flat. So your seller must allow the valuer. So of course you need to make sure that they cooperate, to allow the valuer to inspect the flat within 3 days, and then you will be notified as a buyer of when the valuation has been posted out on HDB portal. Yeah, then after that you can exercise your OTP. Yeah. Okay. So resale application. Just to emphasize again, step 1, both buyer and seller submit relevant documents within 7 days of each other in the resale portal. Okay. Step 2, you make sure all documents are endorsed within the timeline. Thirdly, make payments promptly. Okay, and also keep track of updates via the portal. I think the portal is quite good, right? So it really updates you very promptly. So just make sure you follow that, and then you won't mess up.
Yeah, they want to make the agents lose our job.
I think you still need the agent though.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're preparing for the completion of your entire resale process, right? So, but as buyers, do your due diligence, do the final inspection, and seller, you need to rectify any unauthorized renovations. Actually, this one definitely have. I think even more so in this generation.
Oh yes, yeah. So actually for this unauthorized renovation, right? That's when, when I mentioned about the acceptance letter, the HDB officer will actually look through.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if they find any unauthorized renovations, they will ask you to get it done before you can move on to the endorsement of documents.
Right.
Yeah, of course, this part is a gray area. Sometimes your buyer is quite flexible. Yeah, because they say, oh, anyway, I'm going to do a total reno. Yeah, so there will be a form that you have to both agree to sign and indemnify and let HDB know. Yeah.
Right, okay. That's very useful. So then, as a buyer, you pay the balance of the price, of course, with your cashier's order, and then seller, you terminate your own gyro payment.
Yes.
Yeah, these are small things to take note lah.
Right.
Okay, then buyer, you have to buy fire insurance, right, if you're taking the HDB loan. And for seller, pay all your taxes and SNCC.
Yeah.
Coordinate the move timeline with the buyer. Ensure the flat is vacant by handover date. So a lot of unexpected scenarios actually with this last step, right?
Oh yes, actually with SNCC also, you all have to take note. There is a form that you need to go to your town council to endorse. Without this form, even when you go for your HDB completion, the officer will not proceed with the completion until they receive this form. Yeah, so this is also another important step.
Yeah. I think people will miss out on this.
Correct. When I first
form.
started as an agent, I forgot to advise my seller. So this is something, it's etched in my mind throughout. Yeah.
With
So I always
experience,
emphasize, yeah.
you get help.
Right.
All right, so obviously, after that, you attend the completion session together HDB office. So if it's a contra, where both units are contra, you have four different sets, four parties at the meeting itself. Okay, so ensure that you bring all your original documents to complete the resale process. And then when you're preparing the handover of the flat, you have to sign the transfer and the legal document. The buyer will get the keys and the seller will receive the sales proceeds. So very straightforward, okay? So then you complete your handover and you start in your moving process. Yes. So just some tips, right? You just make sure you have a valid SingPass to log into the HDB portal. Follow all the steps by HDB. Ensure all your personal issues are settled, like your financials, your family matters. I mean, we have also encountered divorce
Unforeseen, circumstances.
cases, things like, oh, I'm not going to sign this until I receive this from you.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are complicated cases out there, right? So okay, this is a tip, but you should try and maintain the same family structure from start to end to just ensure a smoother selling process. Of course, this is subject to your personal circumstance. Yeah, really. Yeah. So ensure your cash proceeds are credited to your CPF if you are relying on proceeds, right, from your first property to fund the next. So just stick to your timelines and have your relevant documentation.
Yeah, for cash proceeds, right? Okay, if it's not as in, okay, whatever you paid by CPF, it will go back to your CPF account. Okay, anything that is cash, they will actually give you a cashier's order. Yeah, but do you get the full cash proceeds, right? Stay on with us because we will be sharing more on this cashier's order and cash proceeds as well.
So, you want to look at the right time to sell or, buy. Okay. So, okay, there are some successes here, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, by Joanna, right? So, you would have certain good, circumstances, right? So this is an overvaluation. So what happened here was this 5-room HDB seller had an agent to list the flat for 3 months, and there were only 2 viewings with no offers received. So, this project had very few transactions because of the location, and also it's quite new, right? So it received very minimal interest. Yeah, so within a short period of time, Joanna did manage to secure 6 to 8 viewings, and the pricing was re-evaluated, and she also set a record high asking price of 800K. So maybe Joanna, you can share a bit about this success story, how you managed to help this seller sell their flat so fast.
Okay, sure. I think this was one of my breakthrough in terms of maintaining a record high transaction. Yeah, so in a newly, location, new estate, right, where you have a lot of green grass and you have very few amenities, sometimes it's a make or break. especially when the location isn't the most centralized area. Okay, so when the owners actually approached me, right, I tried to study the market, I tried to study that area, and what I did was I actually tried to bring out the beauty of the area as well as the potential transformation that will happen in this place. So I'm not just selling the unit. Yeah, I'm selling the potential that the next owner can see in the next 5 years. Yeah, and this is probably something that not many, I don't want to badmouth agents, but not many agents will actually look into that, you see, because they will just look at the physical condition and say, oh, I just need to sell this unit. Yeah, but when you receive a challenge like that, this is how you overcome a challenge. You need to
Look beyond.
yeah, and
what's
build
obvious.
confidence in the buyer as
Yeah,
well. Although you're representing the seller, but you want a win-win situation for both parties.
And
Yeah,
I think that knowing the future eventual or the future developments and transformation of the area is very important.
Yeah.
Because as a buyer, you're going to live here for the next like maybe decade or so, right?
Yeah.
So you also want to know what's upcoming and whether you want to stay there for the long haul.
Correct. Yeah. And up till now, I think it's been quite some time. I'm very happy because there were really a lot of news yeah, on developments in that area.
Oh, okay.
So I'm very happy for the buyers also. Yeah.
Yeah. And also another one, upgrading success, right? From DBSS HDB to executive condominium, right? So these owners of the DBSS, they were very comfortable with the HDB. They had no plans to sell, but, they decided to just think about it. Yeah. So they went through their financial calculations and Joanna, shared the asset progression framework with them, which is a lot of, I think young couples also do think about these things, right? Like asset progression. Maybe it's not just about the home you live in, but in Singapore, a property is very much your greatest or biggest asset that will help you in your financial progression in life also. Yeah. So they decided to then apply for a 4-room EC and are now sitting on a minimum profit of 1.1 million.
Yeah, why am I saying it's a minimum profit, right? It's because there's still a lot of room to grow for this EC. Yeah, so the sellers are still deciding, hey, should we, recreate this exponential growth?
Right.
Yeah, but we are still studying the market and, looking through what are some potential developments that they can consider. So same thing, although a lot of young couples are very comfortable because this was a very centralized location. So to them is, hey, my centralized location can still give me more profits. Yeah, but when they decided, after I shared this framework, right, they decided that, hey, doing a property swap might bring them better yield. And true enough, you see, they more than doubled in less than 5 years, what they the profits that they seen. But buying a unit, right, it's not just about, oh, upgrade lor. Yeah, your next step is to EC, I just buy any unit. So we also do unit
analysis, right?
essentials. Yeah, we do that framework to select the right unit.
Yeah, I think that's very important for sure. Yeah, not every unit will, give you the same successful outcome.
Correct.
So this is also why, even I was also a newbie in this industry, right? And then I realized that, wow, there's so many things to learn.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's very important to listen to an expert and have somebody to guide you properly. After all, because of this move, right, they were able to really progress so much in their finance and their personal growth and help their family grow.
Yeah, they are even discussing retirement plans already. After I recreate another growth, how can we retire comfortably? Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at upgrading, right? Since we're on this topic, HDB upgrading to a private property. Okay, so let's look at the scenario first, okay? So Li Wei and Jane, they are a married couple in their early 40s, which is like, a lot of people say it's like the new peak of your lives, where you kind of have some money.
Oh, yes.
You're not that old yet. So, a lot of things that you can do at this age. So they were looking to sell their HDB, their Bishan HDB executive unit after living there for about 7 years. And they have a combined income, sorry, there's a typo there, combined income of 18K. So their current situation is that their 3-bedder sits on the 24th floor, which they had in the past acquired for 980K. Okay, it had now appreciated to a valuation price of 1.39 million. which meant a profit of 410K. So how did we actually come up with this, right? The valuation. So if you look on the right in the box, this is from our 99.co tool lah. Okay. So if you want to know details about a unit, you can actually approach one of our industry experts as well. So over here, they're living on the 24th floor, so we center out the unit. Okay, so over here, you can see that they purchase price, PP is called purchase price, right? They bought it for 980K. And the X value, which is the valuation price of the current of the unit, right? Is at 1.39 million. So their estimated profit is about $410,000 lah. Yeah. So what can they upgrade to? You know, what is something they can afford next? So just take a break. We'll just go to the take a break from the slide. This is the affordability calculator. Okay, so as you can see, you can put in your so assuming okay they are 42 years old lah. These are all the details that you can put. So if you're interested to know what you can afford, feel free to go to our
Affordability.
our calculators, and then you can find the affordability calculator. So for example, for this Li Wei and Jane case study, they are both 42 years old. Okay. And they right now they sold their HDB.
Yeah,
okay.
correct.
So we assume that they have to sell
first, and then you can take a new fresh loan, bank loan.
So this is what I learned from Joanna also. You should sell first.
Oh yes.
So when you sell first, you can get a better loan, a higher loan.
Right.
Yeah, because if you currently still have your loan on hand, you still have the property on hand, and then you go apply for a new loan, it's not
the percentage, the loan to value will be lower.
Yes.
And on top of that, you still have one property count, which means that you actually still need to pay for the ABSD. Yeah, but there's no point because your intention is to sell and move. Okay, so we count as 0.
Yeah. Okay. So let's assume that their monthly income, because it's a combine of 18K, let's just put 9K, and other funds, right? Because after they sell, they have a profit of 410,000. So we just assume lah, that's all they have.
Yeah, all the assumption. We are just doing an
just
assumption
assume.
here, yeah.
The entire cash on hand is about 410. I mean, after all, your savings, you try not to touch lah, right? You still need to live.
Yeah.
So your CPF, we assume that about from the
300K
from the
loan.
proceeds, right? Yeah. You get about it goes back to your CPF, because after you sell, it goes back to your CPF, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So you just assume it's this amount. So if you are interested in private, you click private. And then if you can get a 30-year loan at a percentage interest of 3%. So all this, you just check current market rates, what are they like.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you can kind of find out the maximum property price that Li Wei and Jane can afford is 2.24 million.
Yeah.
And the maximum bank loan that they can get is 2.34 million. So it's very ideal. A lot of things you can buy, right?
Yeah, you can still look into a very nice, comfortable 3-room condo. Spacious, functional. Yeah, lots of options out there. But do note that the calculation that we did, right, is a very conservative calculation, because some of you might enter in your like credit card loans or any other outstanding loans. Okay, all these loans, right, the banks will also take into account, and that might affect the amount of loan that you get. Yeah, so this is a good gauge for you all to do an estimated calculation. Of course, sometimes we also do help advice. You know, how do we reduce the credit card or car loans to get a higher loan? Yeah, housing loan. So yeah, some tips and tricks that we do also lah. Value add.
So these are very, very personalized templates. So you have to key in exactly what your situation is like to get the most accurate outcome over here. Your estimate lah. So just to how do you find this calculator? You go to 99.co, you click on home financing. So you can find that the affordability calculator is here, okay, along with the other calculators that you might want to use. Yeah. Okay, so back here. Okay, so let's talk about unexpected setbacks, right? That some sellers should consider. Okay, so setback 1, extension of stay issues. I think this is quite a very common issue, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of my friends also face
now.
this kind of issues. So just a scenario here, like Alex, you know, who is a buyer, he was assured by the seller that the unit would be vacant by the time of key collection and there is no need for extension of stay, and agreed to move out before the final inspection. Yeah, so what happened was that when Alex arrived at the flat, she was expecting a vacant unit, right? But Jane had not fully moved out and left furniture and personal belongings behind. So what happened is that Alex allowed for a brief extension for Jane to clear out her remaining items and insisted that all personal belongings be cleared immediately to avoid further delays lah. Yeah. So what happens here is that, you know, if you're a seller, I think you need to try to
I think
Right.
yeah, always have an agreement, like
Yeah.
even if you are a buyer, okay, and seller promise you that it's sold vacant, always prepare something, an agreement like, oh, in the event that this does not happen, how much can you charge the seller for not moving out before or on the completion date? This is also to protect yourself, and this is something that we always do to protect our clients as well. Yeah, anything can happen. Yeah.
For sure. So, you know, what's the importance of extension of stay is that you give the seller time to relocate, right? So you just avoid any temporary housing
Yeah, very troublesome.
scenarios, you know. So then you must just make sure you agree on this up front, and also buyers, please plan your move in also accordingly lah. You know, you don't want to delay other people's move in also.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So another setback, you know, is like a senior downsizer. So this is actually something that I personally encountered also. Yeah, so you know, this a senior in her 70s, like she wanted to downsize from her 4-room HDB flat. So she was looking to transition to a smaller home. And what happened was that she couldn't find a suitable replacement flat within her budget. So she could not move into the next home immediately. And she already sold her flat. Right. So this is also one downside to selling your house first. You want to make sure that you have a proper plan also. Yeah. And get ready for temporary housing because anything can happen, right? So what happened is that she sought for an extension of stay from the buyer, and this buyer agreed to extend. I think she extended like 6 months.
Oh, thankfully this buyer is very nice.
It's very nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
such scenarios is always very close to my heart because I always feel a lot for the elderly and the seniors. Whenever they tell me that they want to sell the house, I would always ask them again and again, do you have a next place to stay? Yeah, what's your plan after selling? Yeah, so if they don't, right, and if you meet a nasty buyer, then you'll be scrambling for a place to rent, and that might eat into whatever retirement funds you had after selling your house.
Yeah.
So always make sure that you have a place to stay.
And yeah, try to be nice to the seniors.
Yeah, be nice to seniors, okay? I mean, they really work so hard all their life, you know.
They might make
money.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Let's be kind.
Correct.
Okay. So this is something that you need to ask yourself, right? Even as the senior or whoever who's selling. Is selling price the top priority when you want to sell your HDB? Because some people just prioritize, oh, I can sell high now, I just want to sell, right? So you need to understand and ask yourself, is that really your top priority?
Correct.
Because if it is, then you need to be willing to maybe like give up certain things, right? Maybe you need the temporary housing first and all that. Yeah. So the third one, okay, ethnic quota restriction. So this is something that maybe a lot of people don't think about. Yeah. So it's very real. Okay. So for example, okay, an Indian family, right? They were seeking a 4-room HDB flat that was successfully negotiated, and they exercised the option to purchase within the same month. Okay, and at that time, the ethnic quota eligibility was confirmed. Okay, so how can you check this? This is also all in the HDB flat portal. They also let you know, are you able to buy this? You know what I mean? Yeah. So the issue is that the flat became ineligible for their ethnic group under the new month's ethnic integration policy quota. This is called the EIP. Yeah. So they were risking the cancellation of the transaction. Yeah. So this EIP quota is updated on the HDB portal on the 1st of every month. So the regulation is that very easy hack. As the agent, actually Joanna, she took a screenshot of the EIP validity on the HDB portal when the OTP was exercised. So she appealed to HDB for clarification.
Correct. That's why this is agent advertisement, right? The reason why you engage an agent is also the value add, because unforeseen situations like this do occur. But because we are very seasoned with such scenarios, we already know what to prepare and how to advise our clients on the next step forward. Yeah.
So yeah, it really helped this Indian family to
successfully
buy their house.
Correct. Wow.
Okay, so this is just an example of where you can check the EIP, the PR resident or quota. So PR also have quota. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just breeze through this really fast because we are approaching the end of the webinar and we want to address all your questions, okay? So I think a lot of people ask themselves, should I just DIY because I don't really want to engage an agent, you know, I don't trust or like I don't want to pay
save
commission.
money.
Yeah, I mean, these are real issues, right, that people have. So, okay, I also like, I did ask myself this question also, like, what if I should just deal with it myself, right? But these are very real issues to consider, because do you have the time to be physically present for all the viewing appointments? Actually, is a lot. Okay, and there's a lot of, I'm a bad texter, right? So sometimes when you have to deal with like inquiries, you need to reply, say, hey, what's your house facing is southwest or whatever, you know, is there afternoon sun, morning sun, blah, 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 you know? So you need to cope professionally with the buyers also and not get so emotional because the house is yours, right? So I think that's something I hear a lot, you know, a lot of sellers or buyers are actually very emotional people. So it's good to have somebody neutral to help facilitate the entire process, right? Then you also need to accept rescheduling. We all know this, right? Even when we meet our friends also, they also keep rescheduling. So what more from, you know, buyers who, you know, think that, hey, you want my transaction, right? You know, so I just keep changing my appointment. I think this happens. Yeah. So you also need to be very familiar with the documentation procedure. So for example, like all the scenarios that we just talked about, it might help you now, but still, I think it's really best to make sure that you don't make any mistakes. Okay, so there are a lot of challenges like you need to know how to price a property, you need to know how to market and expose your property. So just FYI, when you want to market on 99.co or any other legitimate websites, right, you do need to have a licensed agent to list your property. We do not allow anybody, any Tom, Dick, or Harry, to just list their property.
It also prevents scammers.
We want to prevent scammers. So if you want to list a property,
It's very rampant now.
Facebook Marketplace, which I strongly discourage. Okay. If you go on TikTok, there are so many of these like scam stories. Okay. So you also need to have negotiation skills, right? So for example, like some of the successes that examples that we have shared also, you know, managing to sell the house above valuation, that's something that an expert can help you. Not to mention the time and effort to open door and then show the flat and then, you know, all the documentation and stuff. Yeah, so I talk about emotions. This is actually very underrated issue.
Oh yes,
I feel.
correct.
Yeah. Some people don't, like, I think a lot, there are sellers who want to sell, then they regret.
Correct. And there are also, you know, sometimes buyers, right? When they enter a viewing, a house viewing, okay, they are very frank, they are very straightforward. So they just speak their mind without, you know,
Thinking
empathizing you know, they don't notice that the seller is there. Then they say a lot of things. After that, right? But at the end of all the viewings, this buyer might be the one that makes an offer. But seller is very angry.
I don't sell to you.
Correct, because you say my house at that house proud ma. So this is where we actually help to manage all these comments and feedbacks. And help to overcome some of this sometimes very easy to overcome feedbacks.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so there are some unexpected scenarios that would definitely impede your selling process, right? So we also have more scenarios here, such as a financial miscalculation. So, okay, so this case study is where a seller engage an agent that charges a lower fee to market and sell his HDB flat, right? So there is this understanding that the agent will not be present for the house viewings. I think it's like maybe in exchange for a lower commission. Oh, you know, there are certain things that we can compromise on. You know what I mean? I can help you with the documentation and listing your property and marketing your property, but then viewings, you know, I'll save my time on that. You manage yourself since you're going to be at home. So if you're a seller and you're always at home, maybe this is something that you can deal with, right? So what happened here is that the buyer who came to view did not have a representing agent, which is very common, right? Buyers maybe do not really need to have an agent. So what happened was that this buyer, he made a 30,000 miscalculation in their finances, which was discovered only at the end of the entire resale steps, right? Which is the HDB completion appointment. So the seller, Mr. Tan, had to wait for the buyer to resolve their finances on the day itself to make the deposit.
Correct.
So the buyer had to scramble and find cash, right?
Oh yes. Thankfully for this case, right? So their completion was delayed by about 3 hours because the buyer still had to go and queue up at the bank, you know, get the cashier's order. and ensure that she had sufficient cash to proceed with this purchase. Yeah, so at the end, everyone had to wait lor.
Yeah,
They couldn't go anywhere because
so fortunately the buyer had the cash also. If not, then the entire transaction will have to fall through. Yeah. So scenario 2, okay, this is a contra, party miscalculation. Very similar to the first one, but this is a contra, so more parties are involved. Right. So like a family was planning to upgrade from a 4-room to a 5-room HDB flat, and then they calculated their sales proceeds themselves. So I think that's something that you need somebody to help also when you're trying to calculate your sales proceeds, right? Yeah, so they were relying on these funds for sure, right, to fully cover the down payment of their new home. All right, so what happened was that their calculation overstated the cash proceeds by 30K also. Oh my God, this was 30K, because they did not account for HDB loan requirements, which required 50% of the cash proceeds, or 25K, whichever is higher, to be used for their next HDB purchase. Okay, so on top of that, the seller of their newly purchased HDB 5-room, right? So they wanted to move into the 5-room flat, but the seller had requested for an extension of stay from them. So this meant another delay, right, in their renovation plans. So what happened was that this miscalculation led them to scramble for funds to cover the shortfall, and they had not known also they were not required to grant the seller an extension of stay.
Correct. Yeah, so actually for contra parties, right, there's a lot of fine prints in between. Yeah, so and you see this miscalculation of 30K, right, is something that because we do this calculation on a regular basis, so we are able to advise them on the exact cash proceeds that they will have. But they are not seasoned, you see, so they just say, never mind, I think, based on this calculator, we have a lot of cash proceeds. Let's just go ahead with it. Yeah, and then we always think that extension of stay is very normal. So they wanted to grant the seller the extension of stay, right? Okay, why I'm sharing this is because I came in to assist them halfway through their whole transaction. Yeah, to try and rectify whatever was, to fill in the missing links lah. Yeah, so they actually learned that, actually as a contraparty, I'm the only one who can request for the extension of stay. I do not need to grant the seller of my purchased property that extension of stay.
Right.
Yeah, so they managed to buy more time, have more time for their renovation. And the miscalculation of funds, right? Thankfully, they had some savings that they were prepared to pay for the reno. Yeah, but they did comment, wow, had we known that we are getting this amount lesser, right, we wouldn't have sold our house.
Right. Oh my, okay. Yeah, so then you have complicated family situations that you need to navigate. Very common ones like you divorce, inheritance dispute, there's some estrangement, within your family unit, right? And the joint ownership also. Yeah, financial hardship or elderly incapacitated relatives who maybe need to sell their flats. Yeah, then you need to assist them. Yeah, so it's best to also have somebody who's neutral and objective to assist. Yeah. So, so if you ask yourself whether you should engage with an agent expert advisor, you should, just think about it, whether you feel like you want a peace of mind, you want something that you don't really need to, unless you have the bandwidth, right, then I think maybe you can consider lah. Yeah, so, some useful tools for whether you're a buyer or seller. So, as shared, there's all the financial calculators that you can try and just use. So it's very personalized. So, it's, if you need help with it, you also can also contact us to help you with your calculation lah. Yeah, so if you want a free consultation, you just have to scan this QR code. We'll also give you the entire HDB seller checklist so that you know what you need to do, like every step, every document that you need, right? So I'll give you a minute to scan. And in the meantime, I think let's get to the questions. Okay, so we are about on time. Okay, let's see. Okay, everybody can see the question. Okay, I think just now there were some questions. Maybe we can talk about this one. This attendee, he's selling his HDB resale, right? And then he wants to move to BTO. Yeah, so I think his question is probably like what he can do.
I believe he's looking at the timeline so that he has a seamless transition to his new BTO. I actually just met up a seller with a similar case like this. So basically, right, when you have received the keys to your BTO, or once you receive the letter, usually once you receive the keys to your BTO, you have up to 6 months to sell your current HDB. Of course, some owners have this concern of, what if I don't want to pay for 2 loans concurrently? Okay, so this is where, yeah, subject expert, agents, right? We come in to time it properly for you. We will also help to maybe even negotiate with buyers should there be a need for extension of stay. So this is really case by case basis. Again, depending on where your HDB resale is located at, then can we also advise you on sellability? Yeah. Okay.
Very true. So, is it advisable to sell higher than your valuation value? I think people want to try.
Yeah, I mean, all of us as sellers, we want to sell high, but okay, again, we need to assess. Okay, again, just now when we talk about all the criteria, right, all the factors that affects your valuation, I'm going to give a very biased example. If you are selling an EA, okay, because now HDB does not build any more EAs. So executive apartments are still high in demand because everybody wants space, especially families who are upgrading for their kids to have more room and all, right? So EA still have a higher demand. Depending again on location and all the factors, you might be able to sell much higher than your valuation. Yeah.
So depending on what kind of house you stay in, and
Correct.
all the factors that we talked about today.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you can try. Okay, so the next question, what is the potential upside or growth of resale HDB versus private condo? So I think probably this person is a potential buyer. So she's thinking, hey, should I get a resale HDB or a private condo? What is the potential upside for each of these homes? Yeah.
This is very subjective.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be very biased and swayed towards getting a private condo more than getting a resale HDB. Because when you buy a resale HDB, although yes, you hear your friends and everyone telling you, hey, I buy after COVID, I made money. But this happened only because post-COVID, everybody wants space and there was a lack of BTOs built for all these buyers. Okay, but at the end of the day, right, HDB is still managed or you are just a tenant from the government. So if the government makes a new cooling measure or makes a new announcement, that might make or break the value of your property. Private condo, I won't say that all private condos can make money. That's why we have a framework to advise our clients. And we do a calculation based on the appreciation, the capital growth, the transformation. But because you are the titled owner, so you see, that's why they can do en bloc. Yeah, they have the right to make a decision to what is to be done to that unit. So even if there are any cooling measures per se, right? Most of these condos, you will see that the value, even if it doesn't, appreciate very high, you can see the pricing kind of stabilizes. Yeah, you still get a benchmark, there's still a line there. Yeah.
I see. It also depends on where your location, of the resale HDB or the private condo, I think. Yeah. So do check in, you know what I mean? You can get a free consultation. Yeah. So the next question, would you suggest to couples who are in their early 30s to get a resale HDB that has only about 65 years left as their matrimonial home? 65 years left.
65 years. My advice would be, okay, again, depends on location. Okay, depends on location. If you really like that place, okay, if you really like that place or you really like that unit or reno, I still think that you can still buy, but once you reaches 5 years MOP period, right, try to sell it off already. Yeah, and recreate your growth by buying a younger HDB or apply a BTO or upgrade to an EC. Yeah.
Okay, so next question. This one. Okay, from Pata Sarathi. Okay, is there a cash component available for seller?
Sorry, I don't get this question. Yeah, cash component.
Okay, if you sell your house, you will get some cash.
Yeah, I
Is that what
think
you mean?
if you're talking about cash proceeds, it will depend on whether your loan has been paid up, as well as how much the property is transacted at. So this one, I think you scan the QR code for detailed calculation. Yeah.
Okay. So from Melissa T, at which stage is it it's safer for us to OTP a condo purchase if we are selling our resale HDB?
Okay, once your buyer has exercised the purchase of the resale HDB, yeah, there's a 80% chance that buyer will proceed with the transaction already.
All right, from KS Wong, do agents who are specialized in certain geographical locations, are there agents specialized in certain geographical locations?
Yeah.
He's interested
to
in
buy
buy
resale.
resale.
Okay, in the past, right, a lot of agents have their special location, but I think now that it has become so competitive, most agents will actually just do anywhere. Yeah. So I've done I've done from east to west, northeast, yeah, travel everywhere lah.
But if you had to choose one town that you are most like Taiwan, you know the back of your hand.
I think it'll be the east side and the northeast side because I've stayed in these two locations. Yeah.
If you live there, usually you know your estate.
Yeah, because we follow up the news there closely. Yeah.
Okay, from Jerry. Question, when to sell the owner resale flat after obtaining the BTO key? Also, he owns a resale flat and then now he has his BTO, right?
Yeah. So quite similar to the first question we answered, you have up to 6 months to sell once you receive the key to your BTO. Any further will be subject to approval when you appeal for an extension. Yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe Eric's question is, are we able to have an appointment with HDB? So I'm assuming that Eric wants some help from HDB.
Yeah.
So if you need help from HDB to sell, actually, can you ask HDB?
HDB will not help you to sell. Okay, usually they have the buyback scheme. But usually, right, if you let HDB buy back from you, unless you're willing to sell at value or slightly lower than market rate, then you can approach HDB for this kind of request. Yeah. But why not engage an agent to help you increase the value, right? Then you can earn more.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this is a very similar one. From Ananda Kumar.
Yeah.
Okay, for those waiting for BTO key collection, how many months before or after selling your current HDB that you are living in and all resale process applicable to or not?
Okay, so
Similar,
as
right?
long, within
Yeah.
6 months, resale application can take place on the 6th month of your sale. That means if you only manage to sell your resale HDB on the 6th month, right? Because that's your maximum duration to sell your resale HDB, HDB will still honor it. Actually, they are very, okay lah, in all fairness, HDB is also very understanding. It really depends on case by case and how you write into them.
Okay, over here. Yan Yun. Okay, if the seller paid a portion of mortgage by cash, is the buyer required to pay that portion with cash when purchasing the flat?
No, whatever the seller has paid, whether cash, CPF, or whatsoever, right? HDB will do the calculations accordingly to the mode of payment. So it doesn't impact buyer. Buyer has their own separate way of paying for their new property.
Okay, next question. Okay.
What is the timeline?
Okay. From Eric, okay, what is the timeline for the sales proceeds to be credited into CPF?
Okay, for CPF, right, we always say safe to say up to 14 days, within 2 weeks. But sometimes they're quite fast. Within 2 to 3 days, it's already credited back to your CPF account. Yeah, but for cash proceeds, right, they will actually issue you a cashier's order on the day of the HDB completion. So that one you can immediately take your cashier's order and go to the bank to cash out already.
Okay, so next one from Chris Chan. How much commission?
Wow, I love your question. That's the million-dollar question, right?
How much commission do I need to pay if I engage an agent? Okay, so generally rule of thumb.
Okay, market lah. Okay, in terms, market rate is about 2% plus GST. But this is still between you and the agent to negotiate. Of course, I plead on behalf of all agents, right? Do not shortchange them because our marketing credits has also gone up. So our expenses to help you mark up and sell your house at a higher value, right, has also gone up. Yeah.
Okay, from Ananda Kumar again. Now MOP of 5 years. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
nearing.
Their flat is MOP 5 years new. Now MOP. Okay, so MOP really lah. Yeah. Okay. So do you think the surplus of 5-year-old flats in the
Market.
market? Okay. So do you think there will be a surplus?
Yeah, that means an
of
oversupply, right?
supply of 5-year-old flats. That means MOP flats in the coming years. I think you did mention, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So there will be a very high number of supply of MOP units coming into the market next year, which means that your next question, my BTO collection of keys next year, June to December. Okay, if more supply of flats next year, may there be any demand for my 40 years old HDB flat? Once again, depending on location, there will still be people who would want to look at such resale HDB because sometimes they also want size, so they don't care about the age of your HDB. Another thing is that affordability. Some of the newer MOP units are a bit priced on the higher side. So some buyers cannot afford these newer MOP units. They will still fall back to all these older resale units with a certain value.
True. Yeah. Okay. Everybody wanted us to answer questions. Okay. Derek Liu. Okay. What is that? Okay, Derek Liu. Okay. Does a lesser lease. Okay. So if your house is of a limited lease.
Yeah. So like your
number of
lease
years,
decay, right? 60 years, 50 years left. Is there still value?
Demand
Yeah.
also.
So similar to what I just answered, there will still be buyers looking into these areas. Yeah, these HDBs.
Okay. Mixed development condos. Okay. So condos that are also mixed developments lah. Do they have a higher chance of profit?
Okay, this is from Melissa T, right?
Melissa T, yes.
Okay. Wow, I can do a long debate on this mixed developments and what kind of profits you get. We do have a framework for such developments. I do believe yes, because there's still convenience. Yeah, so there's still value in mixed development. But once again, right, we still need to analyze and discuss based on location and upcoming transformation. Yeah, transformation makes a lot of difference, but it doesn't mean that, oh, I seen government make announcement on this transformation. It means that the value of this development will go up. Yeah. So yeah, this one a good consultation you scan, okay, and have a very long debate on this topic.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, from Felicia Davina, which area has the most upside for resale HDB? What do you think of Khatib, Canberra?
Okay. Okay. Yesterday I was just doing a live also. We actually saw that Woodlands has the highest transactions recently. Okay, for Khatib and Canberra, right? I feel that it's still a developing estate, especially for Canberra, because you can see there are still empty plot of land. Yeah, and most people still wants to stay near their parents, so they will still look into all this area. Yeah, and with all these empty plot of lands means that government will continue to enhance the amenities and convenience, yeah, for the residents.
Yeah, for sure. I think you also, when you buy into these kind of areas, you also need to tolerate the
Yes,
short-term lack of
correct.
amenities.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like people living in Tengah, right?
Bear with it.
Bear with it first. But
You will love it.
yeah, you might get to gain in years to come. Okay, so for Melissa T again, okay, if the valuation from HDB is much lower than our transaction price, the only way is for buyer to top up the COV, right? I think that's correct. Will they back out and will only be compensated by the option fee?
Okay, so this is where you engage a subject matter expert. So usually you have the 99.co portal to do that valuation, right? That's where we break down for you guys, what is the valuation, estimated valuation, what are the potential COV that is involved. So we tend to negotiate all this before entering into a transaction, before we issue the OTP. So yes, if you DIY on your own, such a scenario might happen, and yes, you will only be compensated by the option fee.
True there. Okay, so from Chris Chan, I understand that after collecting the BTO key, I need to sell my existing unit within 6 months. But I need locked CPF in existing house to pay for BTO.
Okay. So when should I start to
sell my
sell?
unit?
After selecting key, After
I
selecting
think getting the
key
key, I
or
think.
getting
Yeah.
ballot number can start to
Oh.
sell. If you get
Oh,
ballot number,
it's quite long,
right?
eh.
Yeah, it means that you need to have a temporary housing of stay. Wow, this one, right? Unfortunately, I think that for you, you need to have a temporary place to stay, or sometimes HDB do, once again, case by case basis, they will look into your situation and advise you on whether they can lock in current pricing or lock in the unit that you have selected until the house is ready. But in such cases, right, I would suggest for you to look into sale or balance flat if you want something newer. Yeah, so that is something that can be done. Request for HDB to let you sell the house and hold the SPF. Yeah, but again, this is really case by case. I can't answer on HDB's behalf lah.
Correct, yeah. Okay, Clement Heng is asking, I'm in a new HDB estate. Yeah, I was gonna say so. Just MOP'd. Without any latest transactions, how do I know my estimated valuation? So I did show that just now in the earlier slides where you can actually get your BTO property valuation. So maybe I can go back to that slide.
Yeah, you can scan the estimated value
Yeah. So maybe we can
or engage a subject matter expert.
maybe we can send in the link again for the property value for BTO, and then address Clement. Yeah. Okay, Clement will be sending you the link in the chat in a moment. Okay, from Terence, can you touch on resale levy?
Okay, resale levy, right, means that if your first purchase HDB is a subsidized HDB like your BTO or easy no, yeah, when you get a BTO or you took grants, right? So when after you take all this, your next property purchase, let's say even if you upgrade to an EC, a new EC, like Orel or something they just launched, or another subsidized BTO. Okay, you need to pay that resale levy depending on whether you are 3 room, 4 room, or 5 room. There are different tier amount. So they will deduct this from your cash proceeds. Yeah. So of course, my advice is if you can upgrade to EC, then it's more worthwhile because at the end, right, your capital appreciation is much higher. Very worth paying resale levy. Yeah.
Okay. Let's cover some questions in the Q&A section also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this was in the chat.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so Vic is asking, he does advise, I think, sell first then buy is a better strategy. As currently do not, okay. So I think when we advise sell first then buy is the better strategy, but he currently do not have enough cash or CPF or deposit. If, they have to down pay.
Yeah, which means
Down
that
pay
you really need
25%,
to find a temporary housing of stay. Yeah,
That-
see whether that's
Yeah.
worth it lah.
Yeah, so Vic says also, if buy first, what are the basic funds that is needed to complete the purchase for BTO?
Wow. Okay, this one we need to do a breakdown. I think
we need to do a breakdown of your funds, like how much savings you have, how much you have in your CPF, what is your income. So actually this, for your case, strongly advise you scan the QR code to
take
get
it
a
offline.
consultation.
Yeah,
to take it
correct.
offline. Yeah. So okay, KSN is now a buyer or seller market.
Wow, I tell you, it's very subjective because recently it's been quiet, really quiet. I've also asked my teammates around. Some areas you really don't get any inquiries. Yeah, but let's see, because election, everything, all the hype is just over. We might see the market picking up again. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have answered Partha. Okay, for Derek, okay. Derek Lim, would new developments, example, new MRT line shopping mall around an estate of old flats, increase their prices despite the lease decay?
Okay, this is a very good question. It really depends also whether they built any new BTOs around these older estates, right? But so far what I've noticed is some of the older flats near my place, the value hasn't really gone up significantly higher despite the amenities and developments that are being built. But yet the newer MOP units have seen a surge in the value of the houses, and it's a good 100 to 150K difference. Yeah.
That's true. Okay. From W Kerr, okay, would it raise one's chances of successful bidding by buying without a buyer agent? This is asked in the scenario that the seller has a seller agent. So maybe if you're a buyer, should you engage an agent, right?
Yeah. In all honesty, right? Yeah, would it raise one? Okay, in all honesty, if a buyer has an agent representing, the seller's agent would tend to have a preference to close with this buyer with an agent. Okay, why so, right? Because we have also encountered a lot of DIY buyers who have complicated the transactions, whenever we enter into an agreement and into a sale with them. So they tend to have this preference lah. But of course, for me, to me is I want a win-win situation. Yeah, so win-win situation, it depends on the offer, depends, and I will also ask questions to ensure that the buyer has everything in place. Yeah.
Okay, we'll address one last question. Okay, one last question. So from Victor Mark. Okay. If my father's HDB is willed to me, do I need a lawyer or an agent to help me dispose the HDB flat accordingly?
Okay. I think with a will, there is also, if I'm not wrong, there's a power of attorney or some document that you need. I forgot what's that term, but you need to have this document that says you are the authorized owner now that your father has passed on. Yes, I think you need a lawyer to help you process. Yeah. Okay. Letter of authority, correct? LOA. Okay, so you need this. It's best to get an agent because there are some documents that this agent will help you to process also during the whole transaction. So it might be complicated if you do it on your own. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for all your questions. I think we have tried to answer all the questions here. So Clement, we already sent you the link to check your BTO property value. Thank you for all your questions. We really, really enjoy engaging all of you. Okay, so thank you for your time and actually sitting out this entire webinar. We have overrun, Oops. But it's fine, because we do love the questions that are coming in. So if you have more questions, please feel free to get a free consultation with us because honestly, every person's case is so unique, right? It's very hard for us to just answer, on the surface, this is what you should do, this is what you can do, it's really like depending on your circumstances. Okay, so thank you so much and have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye. Stay tuned for our next webinar.
Okay.
Not bad. Good presentation. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
How long did we overrun?